Hey everybody, Alex Kazor, SteelersDepot.com, back with some Pittsburgh Steelers draft analysis. Been a little bit since our last video, so wanted to return in a big way with the updated, most recent mock draft I have done for SteelersDepot.com. Couple notes before we get into the mock itself. I will leave a link in the description for the article over on SteelersDepot.com, as you guys can check out the text version, and also in that version, you'll see the others considered in each round, the other players I almost went with at that round instead of the guy I actually mocked. So, with that in mind, here is my updated mock draft after the conclusion of the 2021 Pro Days. All right, starting off at number 24 overall in the first round. Bit of a surprise here with Notre Dame linebacker, DB, chess piece, whatever you want to call him, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. And I know that one's going to be a surprise because we focused, myself included, so much on offensive line and center and running back. And I still think there's a good chance that's where the focus is going to be for Pittsburgh. But if a guy like JOK were to fall to Pittsburgh the way that, say, David Cashner did back in 2012, he would be a really hard guy for the Steelers to ignore. And before I get a flood of comments about, oh, he won't be there, no chance he's going to fall, I would ask you to consider a couple things. One, in a really strong quarterback class where five of those guys are almost certainly going to go top 10, no worse than top 15. We have a couple of strong receivers, a really good tight end in Kyle Pitts, some strong offensive tackles. It's a really strong tackle class overall. That's going to just naturally push down some other guys at less marquee positions. That's just how the draft works. Even guys that are maybe a top 20 talent aren't always going to go top 20 because of other positional value. And if you consider someone like Jamin Davis from Kentucky and his fantastic pro day, he seems like he's going to be a first round guy, top 20 type of guy, that could potentially push someone like JOK down draft boards as well. And in the article I have linked over on Steelers Depot, some mock drafts already have him as a mid to late first round guy, taken in 28th overall, 29th overall, 27th overall, are all mocks that have selected him recently. So it's not crazy that he slips. I think he is, probably a late teens, early 20s guy, but he could fall to 24, no question in this draft. But to the player himself, I mean, he would just be that ultimate chess piece in the Steelers defense, looking for great athletes. If they're going to basically have this mindset of let's match a bunch of linebackers up on receivers in those empty personnel, situations. You might as well just have the best athletes possible to go out there and cover. And he could be more than a linebacker. He can be a slot guy, some safety stuff, just kind of a defensive answer, defensive eraser type of player, kind of like what Cam Sutton was last season. I mean, they're different, body types, and JOK is a physical freak, and he's a more physical guy. I mean, they're not 1-to-1, but just in the sense of last year Cam Sutton was the answer for so many situations. He wore so many hats for this defense when there were injuries, specific game plan stuff this team wanted to address, etc. And Owusu Koramoah can be that kind of guy, and he's physical. He's a tremendous athlete. A little bit on the lighter side, I understand that, but you want speed, you want athleticism, coverage ability, playmaking, and I think that's what he offers. He's got good character. He's Power 5. There's pedigree. Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert at his pro day. You guys know the history there of how important that is for Pittsburgh Steelers first round pick. Since 2010, the Steelers first round pick have had Tomlin and or Kevin Colbert at their pro days. Steelers like pedigree and that, Power 5, I guess Notre Dame. Well, they were in the ACC this year. I guess technically he's Power 5, but we consider Notre Dame, even as independent schools, still part of the elite power top schools in college football. So, and again, the surprise here, could you go running back? Absolutely. You go Najee Harris, Travis Etienne. But if Owusu-Koramoah were to fall, he'd be a hard guy for the Steelers to pass up on. Almost forgot, last note on JOK. He's a senior, but he's still only 21 years old, won't turn 22 until November. So he's that combination of being a senior and some experience. He was a 2 year guy, essentially, in terms of playing heavily for the Fighting Irish, but is only 21 years old. So there's a combination of experience and youth, which is kind of interesting. The Steelers' first round picks, generally speaking, are guys who are younger and have a longer career arc. So that's another reason of why JOK makes sense. All right, on to round two. We are going at number 55 overall. Josh Myers, the center from Ohio State. Kind of a similar profile on paper to Marquise Pouncey, who was a bigger, taller center as well. Josh Myers, 6'5" and 2'8", 310 pounds, 32-inch arms. Marquise Pouncey was 6'4" and a half, 304 with 32.5-inch arms. Now, stylistically, in terms of their playing style, they're pretty different guys. Pouncey was a little more finesse and a much better athlete and kind of space player than Josh Myers, who's more of a road grader, run blocker. That's his forte and the main reason why you're drafting him. But of course, the Steelers need guys who can create a push in the run game. And again, you're talking pedigree, Power 5. Steelers were at his pro day. Tomlin, Colbert, and offensive line coach Adrian Clem. That, of course, is very important, and certainly Myers one of the guys that they were watching. And for me, you build your teams, you build your offenses specifically, and your run game even more so inside out. I'd rather have a strong offensive line and a quote unquote average running back than I would a strong running back and a quote unquote average offensive line. So Myers could potentially be a plug and play guy. Even if not, he could be a guard. He's got the size to play guard. You don't want to be an undersized guard in the Steelers scheme. That's when you get Steven Wisniewski and J.C. Haas. Now you got to have some size to play guard. But the intent with him would be a day one starter at center. B.J. Finney would become the backup center and probably guard as well. He'll battle Rashad Coward. So this one I think makes a lot of sense and just really a plug and play guy for day one, and hopefully can improve and be one step in rectifying a run game that was just abysmal last season. All right, round three, number 87 overall, sticking with Buckeye Country here with Trey Sermon, the running back from Ohio State. Thought about running back in round number two, just couldn't find a name that fit really well. Javonte Williams from North Carolina is probably the most common name you'll see at 55, and it's possible he falls a little undersized, didn't have a great pro day workout, but I don't think he'll be there at 55. He could, but I just didn't realistically think that was a high chance of happening. So no other running back really made a lot of sense. So that's why I skipped running back in round number two and going with Sermon here in round number three. Kind of similar to what happened a couple years ago with James Conner back in 2017. Just that big guy that was pretty productive in college. I think Sermon tested better than Conner did, but they're just a similar profile guy. Not used a ton in the pass game in college, but I think can grow there. But Sermon can hopefully create some more explosive plays in the run game than what James Conner was able to do. And although he has, I think, 450 career carries, only once in Sermon's college career in a single season did he have more than 150. So he's got a lot of mileage left on him as well, which is obviously important. So is this a great answer at running back for the Steelers? Maybe not. I mean, obviously, ideally, you get a Najee Harris or Travis Etienne would be the best thing in terms of a pure runner. But as I said, with the Myers selection, I'd rather build these teams inside out. And you don't get one at 24 because JOK was just too talented. You don't get one in the second round because it just wasn't a running back worth taking. I think Sermon at round three makes a lot of sense. Some people will say he's a day three guy, round four guy, but I think the depth in this class isn't strong. And Sermon could honestly be debated as a number four, number five running back in this class. So 87 overall seems to be a really strong fit for a guy like that. All right, here in round number four with the first of their pair of fourth round picks, 128 overall. Going defense here with Victor Dimukeje, the edge rusher out of Duke, 6'1 and a half, 262. Has had just good, consistent production in his career, 21 and a half career sacks for Duke, 7.5 this past season. A little bit stockier, but I think the Steelers generally like to have their guys be a little bit stockier than more of the longer, leaner type of players at 6'1 and a half, 262 pounds, but good length with 33, I think, in an eighth inch arms, which is impressive, and a decent pro day workout overall. Edge here, I think, is a really underrated need for this team. There was just nothing behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith right now. If one of those guys goes down, or even just general rotational depth, guy playing 10, 20 snaps, per game behind those guys, there really isn't that answer. And the free agency market is really dried up. They haven't really added anyone besides re-signing Cassius Marsh, who, you know, God willing, will not be the number three outside linebacker on this team. So I think you really have to attack edge rusher earlier than later. The problem is this is not a strong pass rush class. There isn't a lot of great fits here for Pittsburgh, so that is one concern. But I think Dimukeje could be a number three outside linebacker, basically from day one for the Pittsburgh Steelers. With the Steelers' second, fourth round pick, 140 overall, their comp pick for losing Javon Hargrave. Going defense here again with Shakur Brown, the cornerback from Michigan State, undersized guy, but really came on strong in 2020 with 5 interceptions, 7 career picks. This guy had a lot of return yards. Of those interceptions, kind of a playmaker with the ball in his hands. I think he played outside and in the slot with Sparty, but he'd be a slot corner in Pittsburgh to help replace Mike Hilton, especially now that Cam Sutton's going to play on the outside more, following Steven Nelson's release. Brown did not have a strong pro day, ran in the, I think, low 4.6s. None of his other numbers were that great. That probably causes him to slip a little bit, but the Steelers have certainly gravitated towards playmaking DBs, guys who can capitalize on poor passes and pressure and things like that, and just a defense that's become much more ball hawking the last couple of seasons. And so, given the lack of size and the questionable pro day numbers, I think he slips here. I think 140 overall is a good fit for Shakur Brown, and he will look good in Pittsburgh. Round six, 216 overall. That long wait from the fourth round pick, 140 to 216. Going offensive tackle here with Jaylon Moore from Western Michigan, 6'4", 311. This is a guy that, funny enough, replaced Shakur at left tackle in college, and maybe he does the same in the NFL by next season with a core four entering the final year of his rookie deal. Moore really, first showed my radar at the Senior Bowl. I thought he had a good week down in Mobile. Watched some more of his tape, but a really good athlete overall. A little bit undersized at 6'4", but he's got good feet, good in pass pro. He's got some nasty too in the run game. I think he's got to get stronger in the run game overall. He doesn't get the push and generate the movement that you would like on base blocks, on down blocks. He does a much better job, but I think as a pass protector, it's probably where his strength is. Right now, had a good pro day testing overall, and just had a good 2020 season and a good week in Mobile, and that's really important for this team right now. Are guys that they've seen a lot of, have a lot of tape on, guys are just comfortable with the evaluation. Guys that played this past season, guys they saw in Mobile, I think all really important and really valued for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I think Jaylon Moore is a developmental, kind of sit red shirt in your number one kind of guy, and then potentially, have a chance to start in 2022 would be the path for him. All right, round seven, 245 overall. Finally getting around to taking a tight end. Luke Farrell, the tight end from Ohio State, in the seventh round. Really just has not been used much as a receiver. I think he has 9 catches the last 2 seasons. Now, he's only played 10 games, so I mean, he hasn't played a ton of football, but still, I mean, 9 catches in 10 games overall. Kind of crazy, but a good blocker, good size, and I think probably can have a better NFL career than he did college career. Good testing overall at his pro day. I think he had a 36.5-inch vertical, so suggested probably a better athlete and someone who can make plays in the passing game more so than the college stats would indicate. Obviously, seventh round for a tight end is not ideal. Tight ends are so tough to make the transition from college to pro in your number one. Depth here is like the edge position completely lacking behind Eric Ebron, but there are just so many needs for this team right now. It's hard to, fit them all in the top 3 rounds. It's impossible to do so. So Farrell, maybe because he's good enough blocker and coming from a elite school like Ohio State, can be a number two tight end right away. And I'm just realizing I think I have 3 Ohio State guys going in this mock draft. But so be it. It's a good school to pull from. Steelers have had a lot of success there. Kim Hayward and Ryan Shazier are some of the most recent examples of that success. So not a bad idea to take an Ohio State guy, especially again in a draft class that is just so much uncertainty with such a weird year without the combine and lack of in-season tape for a lot of these guys, things like that. Load up on those Buckeyes. Not a bad way to go about things. Then round seven, number 254 overall, the Steelers' final pick of the 2021 NFL Draft, going Trevon Grimes, the receiver from Florida, 6'4", 220. It would not be a Pittsburgh Steelers and Kevin Colbert mock draft if they did not take a wide receiver. He's taken a receiver in all but, I believe, 3 draft classes in his tenure, Colbert, since taking over the Steelers in 2000. So just kind of a flyer guy. Grimes had a really strong 2020. It sounds like this team is pretty high on Kyle Trask, so I'm sure they've seen a lot on Grimes as well. Had 9 touchdowns on just 35 catches this past season. Kind of been a big play, jump ball, downfield kind of guy, almost 15 yards per catch in his career. Basically, someone that probably wouldn't make the 53 in year number one since Juju's been brought back, and so has Ray McLeod. But with James Washington and Juju for that matter, but more specifically focusing on James Washington, him being a free agent after the season. If he were to leave, Grimes could potentially hold that role of, not a burner, but someone that can be a vertical Z type of guy that wins downfield quite a bit. So that would be the flyer taking here with Trevon Grimes. So that is my Steelers mock draft. I'll go through the picks one more time and put them on screen for you guys to recap things. In the first round, going Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker, whatever you want to call him, defensive athlete out of Notre Dame. In round number 2, Josh Myers, the center from Ohio State. In round 3, running back Trey Sermon, also from Ohio State. Round 4, at number 128 overall, the edge from Duke, Victor Dimukeje. In round 4, number 140, Shakur Brown, the corner from Michigan State. Round 6, Jaylon Moore, the offensive tackle from Western Michigan. Round 7, third Ohio State Buckeye in this draft, Luke Farrell, the tight end. And then with the other 7th round pick, Trevon Grimes, the receiver from Florida. So is this mock perfect? No, and I'm sure you guys will be the first to let me know that in the comments below. But I think you get a really good athlete right away with JOK at the top. You get your road grading center in Josh Myers. You do get a running back in Sermon who's capable, I think, of being the lead feature back, which is what the Steelers are looking for. You do get help at edge, at slot corner potentially, a developmental offensive tackle, maybe a number 2 tight end. It's still pretty, murky there. What's going to happen with this mock draft? Having basically Luke Farrell as your number 2 tight end, your 7th round pick, backing up Eric Ebron, and then a developmental dart throw in Trevon Grimes. This will not be my final mock draft. My final one will come out shortly before the start of the NFL draft here later this month. So things, of course, are subject to change, but wanted to go in a different direction with this one, try a defender at the top, and kind of see how that played out and impacted the rest of the draft. So, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like the draft, what grade you would give it, and what would you do differently if you did not like this mock draft. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon.